This is the Seton Rivals podcast, where we come to you and we bring you Chandler High School sports news, whether it's the CUSD, whether it is the School of Faith, whether you're in Queen Creek, whether you're in Gilbert or in Chandler. Yes, we break it down. We keep you up to breast on so many things. And who have I been doing this podcast with for a very long time? Ralph Amsden. Ralph Amsden years ago. And it's to the point, Ralph, where we've done so many shows and so many years, year 12, 13, whatever it may be. We're getting it done. Always good to catch up with you, Ralph. How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. We had that down football season, but you can't keep the city down for long.
No.
Things went pretty well in winter sports.
Yes, they did. We've got some champions to talk about, and it's always great because, yes, I consider Chandler a city of champions, and we're going to start off with the Valley Christian Trojans, and props to Greg Hagsma and the Trojans. They didn't just win it. They didn't just win it last year. They've four-peated. And by the way, folks, there's two four-peats to talk about in this podcast. Greg Hagsma, I will say that what you and just everyone is doing over there is terrific. You keep on winning. You've dominated small school basketball. You arguably could beat some bigger schools. And Ralph, VC has just been a staple of this podcast. And it's weird to say very quietly they get it done. But yeah, when people mention basketball teams, sometimes they talk about Santan Charter, sometimes they talk about Seton Catholic and all that, but Valley Christian seems to take a back seat, but there's no reason they should ever take a back seat.
Yeah, no, and they don't care and they don't complain. It's a school where they're competitive in all of their sports, but if you've ever been there, you know basketball is their thing. Mm-hmm. Greg Hagsma has coached baseball. I mean, I have a friend who's like in his 40s who like pitched for Coach Hagsma, I think. So like, he's coached multiple sports there. He's got his fingerprints on everything, but basketball is really the bread and butter. His son, Brandon, is one of my all-time favorite high school basketball players. Like, the direction you point your kids in is probably the thing you're most passionate about. So, and they've been fantastic all along in the run that they went in the is this the inaugural Copper State Championship?
Yes, it is. So they've won 3 A's and a Copper. Yep.
Yeah. And so, to run through everybody in semi-dominant fashion. I mean, Yuma Catholic really, really gave them a game. But they were able to hold on, and then you have that long rest between the February 22nd and the actual championship game.
Correct.
And they came out hot against Gilbert Christian, and Gilbert Christian is a team that came off a really emotional overtime win against Santan Charter, and Correct. You thought that maybe that would carry over, and Valley just never gave him a chance.
Yeah, Valley Christian is. I like what they're doing. I mean, this Copper really proved that they are the best of the best. And there was so much talk about, the Copper 2A, 3A, but you've got some really good 2A teams in there. I mean, you can take a perfect look at Rancho Solano. They were in the Copper division. They got knocked out by Gilbert Christian and went on to win it. So there is some really good competition, and what they're doing is just fantastic. I mean, they're also defending baseball champions as well. So the Valley Christian Trojans, they've got it going on over there. And props to the Greer twins. They are going off to Wheaton College, if I'm correct. And the cool thing about Wheaton College, they are taking they've successfully recruited 2 kids from Gilbert Christian as well. So Wheaton College getting the best of both worlds. Tyler Burr of Gilbert Christian, a guard on the basketball team. He's going there for baseball, if I'm correct. But you've got the Greer twins and Jace Olson of Gilbert Christian going to Wheaton College. So it's we talk so much about big schools that when we hear these smaller schools getting recruited out to the Midwest, much like, say, a Lake Forest, that sort of thing. Same state, a matter of fact. It's Wheaton College, not too far from Chicago. So it's good stuff all the way out. So props to Valley Christian, and hopefully that success can continue on the diamond. So yes, hint, hint. Hopefully we see you at Tempe Diablo in a couple months. Moving on to the Seton Catholic Sentinels. They had a nice soccer run. They went to the state final. I got to do a couple of their games, and one girl in particular, Emerson Stoft. She is a junior committed to University of Arizona. So again, we talk small schools, but she's going Power 4. She scored a bunch of goals. I got to do the first 2 games, didn't get to do the semi or the final, but yes, they've had a great run. Jim Shurbridge and company over at the school, they are as big of a part of this podcast as anyone. We know what Karen Self and crew can do on the basketball side, and they bowed out a little bit earlier than we wanted. They fell to Winslow early in the playoffs, but Seton Catholic, they dropped down to 3A for girls soccer, and they went all the way to the finals. So it's good to see them competitive in so many sports. I mean, they keep it up, and it's the winter sports just kind of go under the radar. I've always felt this way, Ralph. It doesn't matter if it's big or small. We have such a big football hangover collectively that basketball gets a short window, because next thing you know, everybody's talking about spring training and baseball and softball. Yeah. So basketball is kind of basketball and soccer, the winter sports, under the radar a little bit.
True. I will say this: this year feels a little different to me. Feels like it hadn't quite even started yet, because John Rothstein likes to say, "This is March." Yes. Well, for me, March usually starts off with getting to watch Seton Catholic's girls play in a basketball game. So it kind of interesting that it was girls soccer this year that that took it all the way to the final. But yeah, the thing about Seton Catholic girls basketball is that they'll be back.
Yes, indeed. So and that's a cool thing. I mean, we talked about Hagsma, bunch of wins. I don't even think we could do the math. Hagsma's wins and Karen Self's wins. I think it's over 1,500 wins, right? Close to it. Yeah. Isn't that nuts?
Yes.
Yeah. 2 coaches in our backyard have 1,500 wins and numerous titles. So it's so props to both of those coaches. And again, we really are fans of Valley Christian and Seton Catholic. As we move up the ladder in enrollment, ACP, the Purple Rain, the Knights, it's they're getting it going. They made a hire in Derek Zellner, who last was a head coach over with the Gilbert Tigers. Ralph, I don't know what to make of the hire, and it's not anything about Zellner. The last time you and I did this podcast, it's like, okay, 3 coaches in 3 years in a program that's trending upwards. I hope next year this time, whether they go 10-0 or 0-10, we're not talking about a 4th coach. I mean, if you're ACP, and I'm talking parents and administration, keep your guys in place. Keep everything that you've built on the up and up. I'll say this. You don't want to be Chaparral and going into this season not knowing who your coach is and getting that reputation of too demanding that no one wants to be there, and it's talk and not all good talk. We love ACP. We want you to keep your coaches in place. I think Zellner's a good coach. I think he is, and he'll have a challenge, if anything, just for moving up to 4A to 5A, where he's coached before, Ralph.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, because obviously Dobson High opened up for terrible reasons, and he's a Dobson High School quarterback legend, right? So his kids came through the Gilbert program. They were always tough, always. And the thing about Derek Zellner coach team is you're going to have people who play the safety position that can play the run, right? That will come crash up and are physical and aggressive. And, he's going to have access to a level of, I believe this to be true. He's going to have access to a level of kid that he did not at Gilbert High School. He had a couple of very, very talented players out there, but I think that ACP, as it has grown and as it has shown that it can be a really valuable place to have your kid if they have other extracurricular activities or they're really academically focused. He could do some really, really special things there. I just wondered for a minute if he wouldn't go back to Dobson, or if he still couldn't possibly go back to Dobson at some point, and you want continuity in your coaching staff. So that opened up a pretty big question for me when that job opened up right away. But we'll see how it unfolds. I think he has done as good of a job as he could do with what he was given in his previous situation. And the one thing that was always a hallmark of his teams is there were always defensive backs that were always crashing up and making tackles. At least that's what I remember from watching his Gilbert Tigers team. So there'll be some opportunities at ACP. A lot of people contributed to last year's team. Hopefully a lot of those kids stick around, and we'll see if they can make a run this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he will definitely have a lot of those pieces back. I mean, because if anything, I think the kids want the challenge. Hey, we were at 4A last year and we're going up to 5A. You get to play some new teams and different teams. So I think it's, he has the ingredients, and I just hope that he's allowed to build his program, because we have not seen that the last couple of years. And it's like the kids have done what they've been supposed to be doing, and that's winning. And hopefully we'll see ACP continue to rise up. But yes, scheduling and a new classification is definitely going to be the biggest challenge. As we slide eastward, the Casteel Colts, and last we talked, Joe Bushman was the new head coach, and he brings over someone who has been in the Chandler district for a long time as one of his assistants, Collin Bottrill. He was a Chandler Wolf for many, many years. I think it's a good hire. I think it's a great hire, actually. I mean, I think for Bushman, he's in uncharted territory. When I got to speak with him, and great guy. I mean, we certainly look to have him on the podcast, hopefully a couple times over the course of this calendar year. He had a slight knowledge of the CUSD, but I think now that he's in it, it's like, dude, you are in it. And granted, the CUSD has the Premier Region has broken up a little bit. So the scheduling, it's not the gauntlet that it once was, but you're still expected to win. And having a guy like Collin Bottrill, who is a winner, he's been on part of all the championship teams that we've covered over the years, I think he becomes a really good asset to that Casteel Colt family.
Absolutely. If I was starting a staff in the Southeast Valley, and I needed a right-hand man that knew the lay of the land, I mean, that's a coach that I would definitely go with. And the hockey dad
Yes.
skates on over to Queen Creek, the border Queen Creek and Chandler, and I think that he'll help build a really great culture out there, because unfortunately, that is one thing that we have had. And part of it's just because, like Brad Sesmat was close to the situation with his son Colby in there. And he would talk to me all the time about how, people didn't realize what they had with, with who Bobby Newcomb was as an athlete, who he was as a man, and who he was as just a student of life in the game, and a literal student who had like 5 college degrees.
Right.
work at the same university that my wife did. And so, and there were other things that transfers and things like that that always kind of made you wonder if there was some type of culture carryover issue at Casteel, or if there weren't opposing forces when it came to how the person that was in charge wanted to lead the program and how the people that were in the program wanted to be led. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm in a situation where I need to build a culture from scratch, especially one that hadn't always had the, maybe not a bad reputation, but like some wide receivers are divas type,
Correct.
some diva tendencies. And so, if you're trying to build something from scratch, I think that's maybe one of the first phone calls I'd make. And so it's shocking to see, people transition out of Chandler after such a long run, but everywhere ends at some point. And so to new beginnings, and shout out to Coach Bottrill, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does at Casteel.
Absolutely. And one note that we will mention, Mason Lewis, top athlete at Casteel, is transferred to Basha. So that's a big piece that is leaving Casteel. And so, yeah, I'll say Coach Bushman has some work to do. And I mean, he knew that going in, not so much the transfer scenario, but he knew that, yeah, there were some key seniors. And but when you lose Lewis like that, that becomes tough. So in that situation, it is advantage Basha, and we'll definitely talk about Chandler in a second, but want to go to South Arizona Avenue and a lot to talk about with the Hamilton Huskies. Congrats to the Lady Huskies as they are girls basketball champions. It's Trevor Nider does it again. It's really good to see. And Ralph, as you got to catch some of the video of that game, they were up by a lot with not a lot of time, but overtime was very nice to them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm glad they won that game. Not that, I'm rooting against Gilbert or anything like that, but I'm glad they won that game just because it was in hand.
Yes.
As much as a game could be in hand. Like I don't know what the best way that I could explain this. Gilbert didn't even score 10 points per quarter, and they caught up a 13-point deficit.
Wow. It's a good way to look at it.
With less than 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining. Mm-hmm. And so, I've never quite seen anything like that, especially in a championship game. And for that to go to overtime and for those girls to not just be shell-shocked, but correct, to be able to refocus, because they did make a couple of mistakes down the stretch, not trying to run out the shot clock, trying to get to the rim, even though that, if those shots fall, then you look smart. But it was just a game where it got real nerve-wracking real quick for what seemed like absolutely no reason. And I'm a big fan of Coach, and actually went hiking with him once to have a soup. We hiked 50 miles in 4 days together. And so wow. I love that he's got a successful program out there. And Hamilton girls basketball has always been a force to be reckoned with. And to be able to say that they're champions, they had their shot in the open. They dropped down to where they belong, especially as the 11th seed. And they just played great basketball. Especially in overtime of the championship game, in order to win this 6A state title. They absolutely deserve it. Could not be happier for them. And you pointed out a couple of interesting facts about this team before we started recording today.
Yeah, Destiny Benway, freshman, and Sage Henry Jr. There's not a senior on that roster. So yes, presumably they'll all be back. And Destiny Benway, very physical. I mean, she's going to be good. I mean, there is some real good talent. Sage Henry was kind of that focal point throughout the playoff run. I imagine she was their leading scorer. If we look at the numbers, Izzy Anderson, point guard, sophomore. So they're obviously well coached. This is his 10th season. He gets a lot out of the girls, and this is and I think what they experienced in this championship game just helps them move forward. It's like they've been there, almost blew the lead, and it's like, okay, hey, you know what? Let's get there again and not blow a lead. So it's I think they'll be good. They're in a really good position to move forward, and overall, now just a fun team to watch. And props to them, definitely props to them. And then props to the softball team. I was recently out there, did a piece with Brad Sesmat, and the Husky girls, they're under the tutelage now of Lauren Rosales, who is we like using the word studette. She was a studette at Basha back in the day, and Rocky Parra has since stepped down. So this is her second year, and they've got a lot of players who are going to the next level. I think they have 8 seniors, and they're all going to play at the next level. That's really good. Yeah, I mean, anywhere from Utah State to Howard to Texas A&M. I mean, they've got some good ones. 2 girls who really kind of stand out for me. Jasmine Ramirez, who's a pitcher, and then also Liliana Russo, who's a southpaw pitcher Russo's going to Colorado State next year. Ramirez to Utah State. Overall, yeah, I mean, we know that girls softball might be the most competitive girls sport out there. I mean, it's crazy. If ever there should be an open, one should be in softball. That's for sure. I mean,
that would be a blast. That would be a blast.
It would. So it's a good, really good group. I'll definitely keep my eye and tabs on them. They played a tournament up in Bullhead City. They lost a couple of close ones, so they're 4-3. But you can expect them to rattle off a bunch of wins. So the Hamilton girls softball team, they are certainly in good hands. And then jump into a quick football note, I guess Hamilton is going to open up against ALA Queen Creek this year. And that's going to be a blast. I think this will be the first time that ALA Queen Creek plays a CUSD team in the regular season. We know they've met Basha a couple times in the they played Basha and Hamilton in the postseason.
Yeah. Gave Hamilton hell one year.
Yes, they did. Absolutely. So yes, and I'll say ALA Queen Creek, as we know, they're not a pushover anymore. They are a bona fide 6A team. So yeah, Hamilton, ALA Queen Creek, they'll get after it. I think it's week 1. Maybe it's one of those early games. So that'll be good stuff. Jumping back to Chandler. I mean, it's I'm still trying to get a feel for that coaching staff. Ty Wisdom, I have not officially gotten to meet him yet. And you and I talked about the fact that he's a winner. Everywhere he goes, he has won. There's a certain culture that has been in place at Chandler High School really since you've been there. And it's a culture that I'm not going to say has been disrupted, but when assistants step away or retire or go to different schools, there is a shakeup. And it'll be different to see how he goes about really winning. I mean, I have no doubt that the man is going to win, but he's going to do it his way. And we finally get a up close and personal seat at the table. Yeah, Horizon, we know, Desert Vista, but those aren't in the district. We don't cover them week to week. But seeing what Ty Wisdom can do, Ralph, is it's very intriguing to me this year because this is a new Chandler. What we've seen previous is old news.
Yeah, definitely. You're not kidding. But I do want to make one point of clarification. Chandler was good after I left.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
So I was probably the curse or whatever. But yeah, no, it definitely happened after my time. Once Iguano arrived with Jim Ewan, and they started running that spread out there, everything took off. So, but yeah, I don't get to take any credit for any football wins. That's for sure.
Now I hear you. And Coach Wisdom, yes, if you're watching this, know that I do want to interview you. I do want to get to know you. And we certainly want to make you and the Chandler Wolves a continued strong piece of the podcast. Next up, the Basha Bears. The one thing we know, they will be hosting Orange Lutheran early in the season, and that's going to be a good one. It's something that you'd mentioned, Ralph, that yes, they're not making that return trip to Nebraska because we know Ty Wisdom and crew came here last year, but I think we can expect the same from the Basha Bears, and that is consistent winning. The breakup of the Premier region, I think, helps them. I mean, now they only have to, I don't want to, because next thing you know, somebody comes up and bites them. But within Arizona, at least on paper, their initial challenge would be Perry. The schedule has not come out yet, or I have not seen it. But I think the Basha Bears are in good shape. They've got the returning quarterback. You got Noah Roberts coming back. They're deep. That's the one thing that the Bears now are, a staple of deepness. Next man up, Dante Bruley will be healthy. It'll be good.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Coach. Apparently, they were sitting across from my dad at a restaurant the other day. So it's always funny to see who runs into my pops out there. Various football coaches. It seems like I get a text like that once a month, but man, no, they're primed for a major run. And it's not even pressure at this point. It's becoming Basha's identity to compete at that level. It's been very cool to see them reach that status. It's what we've seen Hamilton do. It's what we've seen Chandler do. And it's what we've seen Perry aspire to and be on the borderline of if it wasn't Chandler getting in their way. And so, it really feels like Basha's time. And the best thing about it is they've got these West Side, rivals might not be the right word, but like a nemesis, right?
Yeah.
Like Centennial and Liberty have been a thorn in Basha's side. I think it's a fair narrative at this point.
That's right.
And you have this opportunity again to run it back, returning some fantastic players, keeping an incredible staff together, of a team that really just didn't feel like last year was over.
Right.
And that they didn't get the opportunity to compete at the end that they would have wanted, whether it was through some ways that they felt about officiating or Gio Richardson getting hurt. So just so much excitement going into this upcoming season. And I don't know, maybe it's biased, but I think they should be considered the favorite. I think they return the most, and but we'll see. The game gets played on the field.
Absolutely. No, this will be good stuff. No, we're definitely looking forward to I can't wait till the schedules are public. You keep hearing about all these leaks and this and that, but until it's on X, Twitter, whatever we want to say, and everybody starts posting, it's like then we can start putting some of these games in ink or pencil or all that fun stuff. So it'll be good stuff. And then last but not least, we opened up the show talking about a four-peat. We will close this show with a four-peat, a guy who's done it not once, but twice. Sam Dwayne, go ahead with your bad self. I mean, that's awesome to see. 2 four-peats, Perry Pumas champions once again. I mean, Ralph, we talked about, yes, Cole Peat we talk about quite a bit, but Bruce Branch III is he's an amazing player. He really
Unreal.
Is. DeAndre Harrison, he gets his. This was a heck of a team. It was a heck of a run.
And the dominance in the playoffs is not something you see very often.
Right.
And they have some incredible players on this team, and it still felt like a high school football, like a high school basketball team. Like if there had been a player like Koa Peat in Chicago or in anywhere in the state of Indiana, the gym, you wouldn't be able to get a ticket. I came down, I got to watch Koa Peat, and I was one of 200 people in the gym, where they ran Corona out of the building and put triple digits on them. And so I just think it's such a well-constructed team. They're passionate about basketball. They play well together. They've overcome some adversity with Koa's injury. I'm still having a hard time with the idea that Koa Peat has and a four-peat, and has a brother with the last name Peat who got a four-peat. This is like Jordan Champion vibes. Jordan Champion from Westview, I believe.
Okay.
Who went to North Dakota State. His name is Jordan Champion, and he won 5 FCS national championships. So
that's crazy.
When I think of Koa Peat's name, I'm like, well, that's the only thing I think of that can compete with that.
Talk about name, image, and likeness.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Hopefully he's able to cash in on that. It'll be really interesting to see what he does next after this. But for now, gets to enjoy being one of the greatest athletes in the history of Arizona high school sports.
Absolutely. It's and just again, it's like we talked about these schools, and we're gonna kind of poke fun. It's just talking about the Perry Pumas now is much different than when we used to talk about the Perry Pumas a handful of years ago. I mean, it's really cool. It's we're very happy that we're really the embracement goes both ways now. It's terrific. It's really good to see. While I was doing the game against Ironwood, their quarterfinal game, I see Coach Ortiz. He walks in the gym, so I text him. I'm like, "Hey, do you want to come up here and be my analyst for basketball?" So he actually comes up. He didn't join me, but it was just one of those things where just the school spirit is very high. It's a lot of fun. Heather Patterson, their principal, just really terrific, just really supporting athletics. Of course, Jennifer Burke. So yeah, it props to really everything that's going on over there. We're seeing the sports rise up and the interest, and no, it's really cool. So yes, we're blessed to have 8 teams in our district. That is, and when I say our district that we cover, we call my district, it's the Seatown district. So yeah, it's good stuff. And folks, we figured we'd give you an update on the winter sports and what's been going on and some coaching moves. And we'll check back with you one more time, probably in late April or so, or early May, once the spring sports start to take a certain direction. Coach Woods with Hamilton baseball. Yeah, I know we didn't really mention you in the podcast, but no, I am definitely going to be out there as often as I can. It's good stuff. Ralph, as always, yes, your contributions, your knowledge, your insight, I'm going to say it's like the CUSD, second to none. So keep it up,
Appreciate
Ralph.
it.
Thank you. He's Ralph Amsden. I'm Brett Quintyne. We'll see you guys next time on the Seatown Rivals Podcast.